Good morning, good morning, good morning. The time for convening has arrived. The Senate will come to order. At this time, I will ask all unauthorized personnel to exit the chamber. Recognize the senator from the 28th for the reading of the journal.
Thank you, Mr. President. I got to tell you, I got these readers on. I can actually see again. It's kind of nice. And in my seeing, I'm seeing that on this day in 1879, the U.S. Congress authorized women lawyers to practice before the Supreme Court. So I know the senator from the 42nd is very proud of that, and we're glad of that as well. Also, the senator from the 14th wanted me to make sure and point out that the day after day after Valentine's Day is actually National Singles Awareness Day. So if you see a single out there, give them a hug. Mr. President, we got a great lineup of pages today. Out of LJ, we have Elizabeth Warren. We have Brooks Burkett from Valdosta. We have Ivy Colson from Toccoa, and Cohen Whitmire, also from Toccoa. Meredith Spandel from Statesboro. Reagan Spandel from Statesboro. We have Elizabeth Briones from Moultrie. We have Hannah Chester from LJ. We have Isabella Corcoran from Smyrna. We have Kylan Drullinger from LJ. We have Jackie Gonzalez from Cherry Log. We have Marshall Goodman from Cumming. We have Taylor Griffin from LJ. Gail Muller from LJ. Min Wynn from Sewanee. We have Ingrid Kiskina Arriaga from LJ. We have Olivia Scholl from LJ. We have Nethra Praveen Kumar from Sewanee. And so y'all give our pages a big round of applause. We got a great lineup today. We appreciate y'all being here. Look forward to working with y'all. Now y'all get to work. Mr. President, the journal has been read and found to be correct.
All right. Thank you, Senator. We got a strong contingency from LJ, Georgia today then. I like it. So thank you, pages, for being here. Appreciate y'all participating. Is there objection to dispensing of the reading of the journal? Chair hears none. The reading of the journal is dispensed with. Is there objection to confirmation of the journal? Chair hears none. The journal is confirmed. It's now time for the first reading and references of Senate bills. Secretary?
Senate Bill 494 by Senators Watson of the 11th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 23 of Title II of the OCGA relating to the Georgia Hemp Farming Act so as to regulate hemp products, to provide for definitions.
Agriculture.
Senate Bill 495 by Senators Watson of the 11th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 31-2A-18 of the OCGA.
Health and Human Services.
Senate Bill 496 by Senators Burns of the 23rd and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 1 of Chapter 5 of Title 48 of the
Economic Development.
Senate Bill 497 by Senators Hickman of the 4th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 4 of Title 20 of the OCGA relating to vocational.
Higher Education.
Senate Bill 498 by Senators Jackson of the 41st and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 12 of Title 20 of the OCGA.
Government Oversight.
Senate Bill 499 by Senators Ginn of the 47th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 70 of Title 36.
State and Local Government.
Senate
General.
Bill 500 by Senators Dixon of the 45th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Title 31
Health
of the
and Human
OCGA.
Services.
Senate Bill 501 by Senators Harbin of the 16th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 19A of Chapter 2 of Title 20.
Education and Youth.
Senate Bill 502 by Senators Dixon of the 45th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Part 1 of Article 1.
Regulated Industries.
Senate Resolution 602 by Senators Beach of the 21st and others, a resolution proposing an amendment to the Constitution of the State of Georgia so as to authorize.
Economic Development.
Senate Resolution 609 by Senator Gooch of the 51st, and a resolution recognizing Princess Trilita of the dedication and dedicating.
Transportation.
That completes the order, Mr. President.
First reading. He just walked away. Mr. Leader. Recognize the Majority Leader for a motion.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much, Mr. President. I ask for unanimous consent to suspend Senate Rule 3-3.1, paragraph A, to allow for the reading and assignment of the governor's appointments.
Majority Leader has moved that ask for unanimous consent to suspend the rules to allow the reading of the assignments of the governor's appointments. Secretary? Is there objection? Secretary, read the caption.
Dear Secretary Cook, attached is a list of appointments to various boards, commissions, authorities, and other entities requiring Senate confirmation. This list is submitted pursuant to Senate Rules 3-3.1. If we can provide you with any additional information to assist your office in the confirmation process, please let us know. Thank you for your assistance. Sincerely, Brian P. Kemp. That completes the order, Mr. President. Is that right?
Per the Senate rules, the governor's appointments are assigned to the Committee on Assignments. Thanks, Senator. First reading and references of House bills.
House Bill 814 by Representatives Camp of the 135th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 2 of Chapter 7 of Title 48 of the OCGA.
Finance.
House Bill 873 by Representatives Gunter of the 8th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Title 15 of the OCGA relating to courts so as to create juvenile
Judiciary.
treatment. House Bill 909 by Representatives Hagan of the 156th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 3 of Title 35 of the
Judiciary.
OCGA. House Bill 925 by Representative Sains of the 108th, 80th, and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 1 of Chapter 3 of Title 38 of the OCGA relating
Government
to
oversight.
House Bill 991 by Representatives Blackmon of the 146th and others, a bill to be entitled
Health and Human Services.
House Bill 1037 by Representatives Daniel of the 117th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend
Health and Human Services.
House Bill 1083 by Representatives Williamson of the 112th and others, a bill to be entitled
Health and Human Services.
House Bill 1162 by Representatives Knight of the 134th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Title 48.
Finance.
House Resolution 804 by Representatives Martin of the 49th and others, a resolution proposing an amendment to the Constitution.
Finance.
That completes the order, Mr. President.
Secretary will read reports of standing committees.
Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Children and Family has had under the consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation that Senate Bill 401 do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Kirkpatrick of the 32nd District Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Economic Development and Tourism has had under consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation that Senate Bill 235 do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Beach of the 21st District Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Education and Youth has had under consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation that Senate Bill 88 do pass by substitute. Senate Bill 440 do pass. Senate Bill 464 do pass. Senate Bill 351 do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Dixon of the 45th District Chairman. Mr. Secretary, pursuant to Senate Rule 2-1.6, I hereby give notice that I will introduce a minority report to be read along with the majority report of Senate Bill 88, which passed out Committee on Education and Youth on Tuesday, February 13th. Sincerely, Senator Elena Parent of the 42nd. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Ethics has had under consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation: that Senate Bill 368 do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Burns of the 23rd District Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Higher Education has had under consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation: that Senate Bill 399 do pass. Senate Bill 469 do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Hickman of the 4th District Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Interstate Cooperation has had under the consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation: that Senate Bill 462 do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Moore of the 53rd District Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Natural Resources and the Environment has had under consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation: that House Bill 43 do pass, House Bill 244 do pass by substitute, House Bill 436 do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Anderson of the 24th District Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Regulated Industries and Utilities has had under consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation: that Senate Bill 429 do pass, Senate Resolution 579 do pass, Senate Bill 449 do pass by substitute, Senate Bill 479 do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted it, Senator Cowsert of the 46th District Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Regulated Industries and Utilities has had under consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation: that Senate Bill 374 do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Cowsert of the 46th District Chairman. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Secretary will read bills and resolutions for a second time.
Senate Bill 293 by Senator Watson of the 1st and others, County Boards of Health, operational policies and procedures of the Department of Public Health applied to local personnel, provide. Senate Bill 407 by Senator James of the 35th and others, law enforcement officers and agencies, documenting of certain information and incidents of family violence, require. Senate Bill 421 by Senator Dixon of the 45th and others, obstruction of public administration, offense of transmitting a false public alarm, enhanced penalties. Senate Bill 427 by Senator Tillery of the 19th and others, commerce and trade, disclosure requirements for advertisements for legal services and for drugs, provide. Senate Bill 448 by Senator Hatchett of the 50th and others, OCGA, revise, modernize, correct errors or omissions in, and reenact the statutory portion of said code as amended in furtherance of the Work and Code Revision Commission. Senate Resolution 542 by Senator Butler of the 55th and others, colorectal cancer screenings, change of the minimum age, encourage. That completes the order, Mr. President.
It is now time for the morning roll call. Are there any motions to excuse? Recognize Senator from the 33rd.
Good morning, Mr. President, and thank you. And good morning, y'all. I ask for unanimous consent to excuse the following senators for business outside the Capitol: 10, 12, 44, 38. That's it. Thank you, sir.
Without objection, the senators from the 10th, 12th, 44th, and 38th are excused. Recognize Senator from the 28th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask for unanimous consent to excuse the senator from the 27th for business.
Without objection, Senator from the 27th is excused. Any other motions to excuse? Secretary will call the roll. Senators, signify your presence by voting the yay switch. Secretary will unlock the machine. It is now time for our morning devotion. All senators, please take your seats and cease all conversation. I would ask the doorkeepers to secure the chamber at this time. I now recognize the good senator from the 24th to lead us in our Pledge of Allegiance and introduce our pastor of the day. Senator?
Thank you, Mr. President. Let's stand and say Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The Georgia flag. I pledge allegiance to the Georgia flag, principles that it stands, wisdom, justice, moderation, and courage. Thank you, senators, and thank you, people in the gallery. It gives me great honor to introduce the chaplain of today, Reverend Roscoe Perry. You know, if you got a name like Roscoe Perry, you think you might be introducing a wrestler or something like that. But a great man. He is a great man. He is from Columbia County, Winfield, Georgia, at Mount Carmel. He's the pastor. We've known each other for 35 plus years. He has a great membership there. I want to speak about 3 of his members. The first one is a very dear lady that's already gone home to be with our Lord Jesus Christ. At the early age of 50, she had cancer, and the Lord took her on home. Her name was Deborah Marshall. She was our Board of Elections director in Columbia County. She was a lady that every time you was in her presence, she made you feel like you were somebody. She ran a top-notch ship at the Board of Elections, and a great lady. And today it gives me a great honor to introduce you to her granddaughter, Avery. Let's get it. Another member is a man by the name of Vernon Thomas. He's a legend in the Winfield area too in Columbia County. Very athletic human being. He was a main sole purpose of getting the Winfield Tigers started, where men can go play baseball on the weekends. Also, he has a member in his church that is 102 years old. A lady that I know very well that lives 1 mile down the road from me. A lady that worked in the lunchroom at Columbia Junior High back in the day. Now they call it Columbia Middle School. She was one of the many ladies that my mama told that if Lee misbehaved at school, you know you can handle it. You take care of it. But a dear lady that would just take care of you, and is a sweet lady. Roscoe Perry, I've visited his church several times. And, you know, always, Mr. President, the offering plate comes around. We put offering in the plate. And apparently this particular day, Roscoe got up and did some speaking. He didn't really start preaching. He just gave some announcements and all so they could go back and count the money. Come find out they didn't raise enough that day in the offering plate. Mr. President, Dean of the Senate, here comes the offering plate again for the second time. Well, a dear friend of mine, being living there my whole life, a dear friend of mine, he was just a smiling and grinning. He had the offering plate and he put his hand on my shoulder the second time. I went to reach in my pocket, get some more money. He leaned over, he said, "Lee, get some out of that other pocket." He had me where he wanted me. But anyway, just great moments back in the early days. But it does give me great honor to introduce you to the pastor today, Roscoe Perry. I want to say one thing about this man. He works with a company called Heartland. And he's the chaplain for them. And he's the man that goes and speaks to people that's on hospice and on the deathbed. Ladies, men, he will tell you time and after time when he goes to try to lift someone up, when the visit is over with, he got more lifted up than they did. It gives me great honor to introduce you to the world heavyweight champion wrestler in the Winfield area, Roscoe Perry. Come on, Roscoe. Lay it on us. Thank you.
Well, good morning, everybody. It's good to be here today. I am so grateful to this great senator, my good friend and brother, Lee Anderson. I want to thank him for the invitation. To the president, I want to thank you for your graciousness and all the senators who are here today, my lovely family. Again, we have one of our deacons from our church, Deacon Frails, who surprised us this morning. Good to have him here with us today. Also, my lovely wife is here, and my daughter, my only child. Amen. Give them a big hand if y'all would. And Ava. Ava's giving herself a big hand. But it's just, yes. So it's just good to be here today and to have this opportunity just to share. A lot going on in our country, a lot going on in our state. We just celebrated what we call Love Day. And if there's something that we really need more in our state, in our nation, in our world, is love. We're in a sad place where you can't even go to a celebration of the winners of the football contest without somebody being hurt or killed. And so we're in need of love, real love, more than Valentine love. That's beautiful in itself. But the real agape love that says that everybody's worthy to be loved, regardless of their color, their creed, their religion, their sexual orientation. Everybody deserves the right to be loved, to be appreciated. And I really think that that's what everybody really wants. As Senator shared, I work in hospice, and that goes across the board with people, races, colors, rich, poor. And one thing I've discovered, that everybody really wants to do the same thing. Most people in the world are good people. Television just perpetuates the negative. Most people just want to live their life, do their job, take care of their family, and live peaceably. It's sad that the squeaky wheel seems to always get the oil, or needs the oil. It always makes the most noise. We need love. We need to be purveyors of love. And that's what the faith communities really should be about, sharing love. But not only speaking love, but demonstrating love. That we should be the purveyors of love, that we show people how to love, how to treat people right, how to treat people fairly. What you do, I know you cannot legislate morality, nor can you legislate love. But again, all of us have the right, the responsibility, and the obligation to demonstrate love on every hand. So again, when I had the invitation from this great senator to share, I thought it apropos to just talk about and drop a seed of love. Let us demonstrate love when we leave this chamber today. When you go in your districts, demonstrate, be purveyors of love, because as one songwriter said a long time ago, what the world needs now is love, sweet love. And wouldn't our world be better if we would not just talk it, but if we would walk it? Let us pray. God of our wearied years, God of our silent tears, thank you for this day. This is the day that you have made. We are going to rejoice and be exceedingly glad. Thank you, God, for all of these senators who are here, who represent this great state of Georgia. Thank you for those who visit today, those who have come and share and will watch as the business of our state is done. Pray, God, safe passage for them to their various destinations as well. Thank you, O God, again for using us. Bless us, God, as a state. Bless us, God, that we could lead and be purveyors of love and demonstrate it on a daily basis. Thank you again for the president and all senators and all the families that are represented. God, grant us your grace, cover us in your love, and bless us with your power and your peace. And God, we've come to the end of the journey. We want to hear your welcome voice saying unto us, servant of God, well done. You've been faithful over a few things. Come on now, and I'll make you ruler over many. In the blessed name of the great Creator, we pray. And all God's people said, amen. Amen. God bless you. Thank you so much.
It is always a pleasure to introduce our doctor of the day. Always glad to have the physicians down here donating their time. And it is a pleasure to call on the senator from the 6th to introduce our doctor of the day. Senator?
Thank you, Mr. President, and good morning, colleagues. It is my privilege to introduce you to a constituent, Dr. Max Starr, who is an orthopedic surgeon specializing in hand and upper extremity surgery. He is a partner at Georgia Hand, Shoulder, and Elbow, and also practices out of Piedmont Atlanta Hospital. He was born and raised in Dalton, Georgia, and after graduating from Dalton High School, went to the University of Georgia. He received his medical degree from the Medical College of Georgia and completed his residency at Emory University. He is a clinical assistant professor of orthopedic surgery at Emory University when he is not practicing at Piedmont or at his private practice. He is a resident of Senate District 6, and his family, which includes 3 kids and his wife, reside in Buckhead. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Starr.
Thank you, Jason, and I just want to thank you guys for the opportunity to come down here and serve as Doctor of the Day. I'll keep this brief, but I want to start by thanking all of you for your dedicated hard work and service to the great citizens of our state of Georgia, and ask that as you continue to do the duty that lies nearest to your constituents, please continue to protect and promote high-quality health care in our state and protect and promote the health care providers that provide that care. The health of our state is only as good as the health of our citizens. So thank you very much.
We have some very special guests here with us today. I have several groups, but Secretary, read the caption.
Senate Resolution 560 by Senators Albers of the 56th and others, recognizing February 15, 2024 as Donor Day at the State Capitol and for other purposes. Whereas by celebrating Donor Day at the State Capitol and sharing the Donate Life message, we can save and heal more lives and honor donors' legacy of generosity and compassion. Now therefore be it resolved by the Senate that the members of this body commend the selfless individuals and their families who make donation possible, as well as the member organizations of Donate Life Georgia for their tireless dedication to educating Georgians about saving lives through organ, eye, and tissue donation, and recognize February 15, 2024 as Donor Day at the State Capitol. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Is there objection to the adoption of the resolution? Chair hears none. The resolution is adopted. Gives me great pleasure to introduce a senator from the 56 to recognize and introduce this fine group of people behind me. Senator, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's a true honor to represent Donor Day at the Capitol, as well as Miss Sierra Pape behind me. In August of 2020, we came this close to losing my son, Will, who's behind me now. It was one of the scariest moments of our lives. And I thank God every day the doctors, nurses, and staff at Northside Cherokee Hospital saved his life. But at 24 years old, my young son had to go on dialysis. We began a journey that we never expected in life. But it was July 1st of 2021, I got the greatest phone call of my life. They said, "John, you're not just a match, you're a darn near perfect match." And on July 21st, 2021, Will and I walked arm in arm into Emory Hospital and had successful transplant surgery. And behind me you can see we are both extraordinarily healthy. Everything in our lives are wonderful, and we have made this our life mission, both here in Georgia and around this country, to help people get life-saving organs. We've passed the Giving the Gift of Life Act unanimously through this Senate, and Governor Kemp signed the law. We've passed it in dozens of states already, and we're working on a federal version as well. We've got folks here in the gallery as well from numerous locations, as well as behind me from LifeLink, from the Georgia Transplant Foundation, from the Eye Donation Center, et cetera. I'm going to ask all those folks to stand up. Piedmont Hospital, Emory, if you're here, please stand up in the gallery. And one of my closest and dearest friends behind me, Kathy Starr, who is a recipient of both a liver and a kidney, and a true shining example for everyone going through that process. Today, though, I'm going to ask one young lady, Sierra Pape behind me, to come up and speak to you. She's 16 years old, and due to her family and other circumstances with her pastor, was passionate about organ donation. And being passionate about that, she came to me, she said, you know what? When kids get their driver's license and their permits, they're young, and they don't know anything about organ donation typically. And I want to change that. How remarkable for a young woman to come forward to do that. And we got to meet with Superintendent of Schools, Richard Woods, and the state school board has now adopted that as part of the curriculum that every young person is going to have in the state of Georgia. So I want you to hear from Sierra, a remarkable young woman, and certainly the future of our great state. Sierra, come on up here.
It is a pleasure to be here. Like Senator Albers said, I do have a personal connection to organ donation. Several years ago, my uncle received a heart transplant and lived many more years. Simultaneously, my minister sadly passed away because she did not receive a transplant in time. So, it was then my family found the true importance of organ donation. And then last year, as I was filling out the form for my driver's permit, it asked the simple question, do you want organ donor displayed on your license? And I checked yes. Upon returning back to school and having conversations with many of my peers, I realized many of them didn't even know if they signed up to be an organ donor or not, let alone the true meaning behind the question. So, there I found, in order to increase organ donation consent rates across the state of Georgia, we must improve the education system first on the organ donation and transplantation system before people visit the DMV. And then after reading about Senator Albert's altruistic gift to his son, I emailed him and was so grateful to receive a response. Today, almost 3,000 Georgians are waiting on an organ transplant. The Georgia Medicare is spending nearly $95,000 per person per year for every person on kidney dialysis. Youth registration will move this needle in the state of Georgia, and education can save lives. Thank you to Senator Albers, Superintendent Woods, the State of Georgia Board of Education, and the LifeLink Foundation for making this change possible. You are leaders in our nation, and you are ensuring the lives of Georgians are a priority. Thank you.
All right. Very nice, very nice. Thank you, Chairman from the 54th. We've got some other guests here today. Very, very, very glad to have these fine folks with us today. Secretary, read the caption.
Senate Resolution 19 by Senators Ginn of the 47th and others, a resolution recognizing and commending family and consumer sciences and for other purposes. Whereas family and consumer sciences is a comprehensive body of innovative research, knowledge, and skills that helps people make informed decisions about their well-being, relationships, and quality of life. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Senate that the members of this body recognize and commend the affiliates, communities, and entities within family and consumer sciences. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Is there objection to the adoption of the resolution? Chairs hears none, and the resolution is adopted. I want to recognize the senator from the 47th to speak to the resolution and introduce our special guest. I think the senator from the 46th is here as well. So good University of Georgia folks here today. So, Senator, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's a great day to be in Georgia. I hope you'll notice that I have a Georgia tie on today. And the reason being is because when I look around the state, we have really impacted so many people's lives with the Family and Consumer Science College of the University of Georgia and other institutions. And so for me, it's a great honor to get to recognize the work that the FAC students do. But I want to brag on a couple of folks here. One of them is my intern that's working with me this year, Grace Hallfield. She's a FAC student. A few years ago, back to 1949, my mother was a 1949 graduate of what was the Family and Consumer Science. They called it home economics back in the day. But I've got Dr. Z from the University of Georgia, the dean of the college, Dr. Z, and Dr. Brigman. And Dr. Brigman, I'd like to present you with this resolution honoring the FACS program all across the state and what you do for Georgia. So I'll give you the floor, Doctor.
Thank you. Thank you. First. Okay. I'm sorry. Okay. Thank you first for having us here, and I would like to present you with a certificate thanking you for your support of Family and Consumer Sciences programs, professionals, and students across the state as we strive to create healthy and sustainable families.
Couldn't do it without my friend Senator Calzert, who I share Athens with, and for me, this is one of those things that we look. I hope that y'all will all reach out to our folks at Family and Consumer Science and welcome them to Georgia. Let's give them a round of applause.
All right. Secretary, read the caption.
Senate Resolution 580 by Senators Williams of the 25th and others, a resolution recognizing and commending AirEvac Life Team and for other purposes. Whereas AirEvac Life Team is the leading air medical service in the United States, conducting its operations through more than 150 mutually supporting air medical bases across 18 states. Now therefore be it resolved by the Senate that the members of this body recognize and commend AirEvac Life Team for its many outstanding years of life-saving service on behalf of those living in rural areas and extend best wishes for continued growth and success. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Is there objection to the adoption of the resolution? Chair hears none, and the resolution is adopted. This is a great group of men and women up here. I think the senators from the 25th, I don't think I'd be out of place to say if it wasn't for this group of professionals behind me, probably the senator from the 25th wouldn't be standing here today. He had a medical emergency earlier this year, and literally had to walk the 911 operators through exactly what was going on, and he ended up instructing them to send him a helicopter to get him to Macon Medical Center, and these fine men and women are the reason why he's here today. So, Senator, please introduce your guests.
Thank you, Governor. Thank you, everybody. I was told that I didn't actually have a heart, I just had a thumping gizzard. But anyway, I'm very lucky to be here, very fortunate to be here. My friend Andrew Strickland, he's the one that I had on speed dial. He's a paramedic that I called from my hospital bed and asked him, Andrew, how about get you a helicopter up here to get me to Macon? But and the pilot, Bill Jones, and Alan McCready, he's the director, and I'll invite him to come up and say a word. And we have the medical director from the state of Georgia for AirEvac here also. All right.
My name is Alan McCready. I'm the program director for AirEvac in Milledgeville, Georgia. It is truly an honor to be here, for me to speak to y'all, but it's a bigger honor for my crew to be here, to be recognized for the outstanding work they did, not just with Senator Williams to make sure he's here and got the care that he received, but also for the continued care and for the state of Georgia and the citizens here, and it is an honor for them to have this recognition. Thank you.
All right. Doctor, do you want to say anything?
It's an honor and privilege to be able to do what we get to do, and my support and my pride in the team and the work that we get to do is just a passion and a work that I am thankful for. So thanks for having us, and thanks for the recognition.
Good job. Good job. Are there any unanimous consents? Does any senator wish to rise on a point of personal privilege? I recognize the senator from the 31st for a point of personal privilege.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you, Mr. President. I just want to come down here just very briefly and congratulate Cedartown, Georgia, on the announcement by Governor Kemp just a few minutes ago of the creation of 600 jobs and $344 million investment to Polk County. Solar Cycle, based in Texas, is opening a facility, and to have such a historic announcement in our part of the state, I think the largest job announcement that we've seen in West Georgia, maybe ever. I think it's a pretty big deal to our people back west, and for those that count us out. And I just want to thank the governor, the Department of Economic Development, the city of Cedartown, Polk County government, the school system, Chris Thomas, our economic development director, and all the partners who made this happen, Edward Guzman, the city manager, and the development authority, and just say thank you for your hard work. This is awesome for the citizens of West Georgia, and we look forward to continue to identify opportunities of growth in this economy that I know we as a Senate and legislature continue to advocate for jobs for our people back home. So I just want to say God bless and congratulations to Cedartown, Georgia. Thank you, Mr. President.
Recognize the senator from the 7th.
Good morning, colleagues. I wanted to share with you that many Asian Americans in our communities are celebrating Lunar New Year, also known as the Spring Festival. It is celebrated by various cultures and communities around the world, including but not limited to Chinese, Korean, Vietnamese, Tibetan, Mongolian, and Japanese cultures. Each culture has its own unique traditions and customs for celebrating the Lunar New Year, but they also share the same common theme of welcoming a new year filled with prosperity, good luck, and happiness. This year, we are celebrating the Year of the Dragon, which is associated with strength, success, and happiness. People born in this year of the dragon are believed to possess qualities such as power, wealth, and good fortune. It's time of celebration and auspiciousness for those born under the sun. And the Lunar New Year is a time for family reunions, feasting, and honoring ancestors. It is celebrated with various customs and rituals, such as the giving of red envelopes, which you all have on your desks, filled with money for good luck, dragon and lion dances, fireworks, and the display of lanterns. It is a time to celebrate the past year's achievements and look forward to a prosperous and auspicious new year. So hope everyone has a happy Lunar New Year. And lastly, I wanted to share with you that the Asian American Caucus will be recognizing the Lunar New Year at 12 p.m. At 1 p.m. there will be a lunch, and at 3 p.m. there will be a lion dance. So I hope you can join us for one of those. Thank you, Mr. President. I yield.
I recognize the senator from the 52nd. And let me remind everybody, I'm looking forward to your line dance, Senator. And this has nothing to do with you just being the well. We just got a lot of people signed up right today. And just remind everybody, we're past the halfway point. So 5 minutes of personal privilege is now down to 3 minutes of personal privilege. And we've had so many people signed up here. I just wanted to remind everyone of that. But Senator, you were well within the 3 minutes. So.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is Senior Day at the Capitol. They asked me to present the congratulations from here, and I said, why me? And they said, well, chronologically, you're technically one of us. So that's true, but Governor Kemp has declared this Senior Day at the Capitol, and this week is Senior Week, and the Georgia Council on Aging is happy to welcome more than 300 seniors here today for this day. And up in the gallery, I think you'll see a few green scarves besides this, and so I would like for y'all to all recognize them and congratulate them on being here. Thank you, Mr. President. Yield the well.
Recognize the senator from the 4th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I read a great article this morning that somebody sent me that over 4 years ago in the state of New Mexico, the Department of Education launched a statewide literacy initiative focusing on phonics awareness, focusing on phonics, fluency, vocabulary, and comprehension. Remember, I just said the New Mexico Department of Education. If you remember, the legislature of the state of Georgia launched that initiative in 2023 when we passed Senate Bill 211 and House Bill 538. DOE did it in New Mexico. In Georgia, the legislature did it. I have put on y'all's desk today, many of you have asked me for the list that shows the 25 lowest performing schools in the state of Georgia. I have put that on, or we have put that on your desk for you to look at, and you'll see that many of these schools are in your district. In fact, I just counted up in my district, we have 38 schools on the lowest performing schools in the state of Georgia. Please look at it, please read it, and talk to your schools and find out why they are. Thank you, Mr. President.
Recognize the majority leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, in just a few minutes, we're going to vote on the consent calendar. One of those resolutions that you'll be voting for in favor of is Senate Resolution 605, which honors Georgia's court-appointed special advocates, also known as CASA. I want you to know that CASA representatives are here today in the Capitol. I think we have a few up in the gallery, and we will recognize those folks in just a minute. But to give you a little background information, CASA was founded approximately 36 years ago. There's 46 affiliate CASA organizations already in Georgia, reaching out to children in foster care in all 159 counties of our state. Last year alone, more than 2,500 CASA volunteers advocated for more than 8,600 children. That's 8,600 children that they advocated for last year alone. They carry on a very, very important responsibility in our court systems. Their main interest and their only interest is in what's the best interest of the child. We are honored to have them here today, and we want to honor them for what they do every day for no pay. They are truly community leaders and public servants. If you would, please welcome CASA volunteers to the state capitol, and those in the gallery, please raise your hand so we can recognize you. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Recognize the senator from the 16th.
Thank you, Mr. President. On your desk is a piece that says Jaguars ask FanDuel for stolen $20 million. As we consider the sports gambling issues, here's an issue where a member of ESPN stole $20 million and lost every bit of it to sports gambling. And you understand that there's some dangers in what goes on, and this is an article that was posted out that you may want to look at as we consider what we're going to do with sports gambling. Thank you.
Recognize the senator from the 3rd.
Mr. President, colleagues, I just wanted to come before you today and give you fair warning that Tuesday, this coming Tuesday, February the 20th, is Glenn County Day here at the Capitol. There'll be a lot of folks here from Brunswick and from the Golden Isles and the Chamber of Commerce. And if you see a bunch of folks wearing beach garb and no shoes. You'll know who they are. They and I want to invite you to cocktails and dinner at the depot. Reception starts at 5, dinner at 6. There'll be plenty of sweet coastal Georgia wild shrimp and a low country boil, and I hope to see you there. Thank you, Mr. President.
Recognize the senator from the 39th for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen. I rise today on a point of personal privilege to address a matter that has deeply affected our community and our nation at large, and that is the issue of gun violence, illustrated by recent tragic events at the Chiefs Parade, where a woman was killed and at least 21 others, including children, were injured, and here locally in Atlanta at Mays High School, where 4 students were shot just yesterday. The incidents we've witnessed bring to light not just the loss and suffering of individuals and their families, but also the collective trauma and fear that instills in our communities. These are not isolated incidents, but rather a reflection of a broader issue that touches on the safety, security, and well-being of every citizen. So as we stand in solidarity with those affected, we must also confront the reality that gun violence is a pervasive issue that requires immediate and decisive action. It challenges us to look beyond the immediate aftermath and to address the underlying factors that contribute to such senseless acts of violence. We owe it to the victims, their families, and our communities to engage in a meaningful dialogue about gun control, mental health, and the societal conditions that contribute to this epidemic of violence. It is our responsibility as lawmakers, as members of these communities, and as humans to work towards solutions that ensure the safety and security of all individuals. So let us honor the memory of those we have lost to gun violence by committing ourselves to take action, to advocate for change, and to create a future where events like those at the Chiefs Parade and Mays High School become a thing of the past. Thank you. I yield the well.
Thank you, Senator. Recognize the senator from the 47th.
Thank you, Mr. President. If I could, I'd like to call on my friends from Jackson County that are here. You know, many of y'all already remember, I've had a couple Jackson County youth groups and leaders from Jackson County come in, but I want them to stand in the gallery and let's give them a round of applause. And I also want to thank my friend Joe Hicks, who's one of the members of the group, for all the work he does at Jackson EMC to help guide our group, and Jim Shaw for the untiring work that he does as president of the chamber. So great to have y'all here this morning, so thank you for being here.
Thank you, Senator. Recognize the senator from the 5th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to recognize we have a lot of wonderful women from all around the state. Georgia Federation of Democratic Women. If you're in the gallery, please stand up. I'd like my colleagues to give a warm welcome to these ladies from all around the state. Thank you. Thank you for being here. That's it.
Thank you, Senator. Recognize the senator from the 20th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to recognize a group of fine young people that are visiting with us here today in the gallery from Fagan Mill Middle School and Mossy Creek Middle School. If you all would stand up, please. Let us recognize you. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. President.
I think they slipped out, Senator. before you recognize them, but we appreciate them being down here. Recognize the senator from the 23rd.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's always good to have special guests in the chamber. Today I welcome the Augusta Interfaith Coalition and a good friend of mine, Reverend Christopher Johnson. They're in the building, they're in the gallery. I appreciate you being here. I look forward to working with you as we continue improving Augusta, Georgia. Thank you, Reverend.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Anybody else, any other senator wish to rise on a point of personal privilege? Chair hearing none. You have before you a consent calendar of privilege resolutions. Does any senator wish to remove a resolution from the consent calendar? Is there objection to the adoption of the resolution on the consent calendar? Chair hears none. The resolutions on the consent calendar is adopted. Are there any motions to withdraw and commit? Senator from the 19th, what purpose do you rise?
Mr. President, I want to make a motion. I'm asking for unanimous consent that the Senate Rule 3-1.2A be suspended to allow the first reading of a bill for the first time and to assign it to a committee.
The senator has moved that the rules be suspended. Secretary, read the caption.
Senate Bill 505 by Senators Tillery of the 19th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 1 of Chapter 7 of Title 31 of the OCGA relating to regulation of hospitals and related institutions so as to revise provisions relating to required publication by hospital of certain financial documents on its website and for other purposes. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Is there objection to the motion? Chair hears none. We'll put that bill in regulated industries. Recognize the majority leader for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that Senate Bill 349 be engrossed at this time.
Senators move that SB 349 be engrossed. Secretary, read the caption.
Senate Bill 349 by Senators Huff-Stetler of the 52nd and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 5 of Title 48 of the OCGA relating to ad valorem taxation of property so as to revise provisions related to the setting of mileage rates to limit the application of the freezing and assessed value as a result of an appeal. That completes the order, Mr. President.
The majority leader has moved. Would you like to speak to the bill? No. Is there objection? Without objection, the motion is granted. Senate Bill 349 is engrossed. Moving on to the rules calendar. We have Senate Bill 349. Secretary, read the caption.
Senate Bill 349 by Senators Huff-Stetler of the 52nd and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 5 of Title 48 of the OCGA relating to ad valorem taxation of property so as to revise provisions related to the setting of millage rates to limit the application of the freezing and assessed value as a result of an appeal and for other purposes. The Senate Committee on Finance recommends that this bill do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Huff-Stetler of the 52nd Chairman. The Finance Committee offers the following substitute to Senate Bill 349 to amend Chapter 5 of Title 48 of the OCGA relating to ad valorem taxation of property so as to revise provisions related to the setting of millage rates to limit the application of freezing of the assessed value as a result of an appeal. And a fiscal note has been attached. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Recognize the majority leader. Speak to the bill. Oh, recognize the chairman of finance. Speak to the bill. I apologize for that.
Thank you, Mr. President, but if he wants to speak to it, I would more than welcome that. Senate Bill 349 is here because our homeowners have seen massive increases in their property tax bills. Now, Fulton County and some others already have exactly in place what this bill proposes, so it would not affect them at all. However, the beneficial stuff of all the bureaucracy we will get rid of will help them greatly. But in some other counties, we've seen increases of tax dollars going particularly to the schools of 26.3% in one county, 30% in another, 32.1, 40.5, 45.8, and 47% in just 2 years. That much of an increase in the dollars. Now, some of these counties already have a freeze on their county government homeowner taxes, but not on their schools, which are about 75% of the tax bill. It would seem if you're getting a 30 to 40% increase in the tax dollars coming in and increased assessments, you could roll back the millage rate. But this is simply not happening in many areas. This bill is entitled the Save Our Homes Act. It is to prevent people from being taxed out of their homes. Their income is often not going up, but the taxes are going up by the hundreds or the thousands of dollars. This bill is a negotiation over the fall with local governments. The bill is not a freeze, and I actually put in a freeze on my county government in 2002, but this is not a freeze. It allows for modest increases of 3% annually. And again, this is already in place in some areas, or again, in some areas it's a freeze. So getting a 3% increase in your homeowner bill in a year is a whole lot different than getting a 30% increase. This bill does not affect business property, just like all the other local freezer caps have been in place, do not affect them. Their income generally grows with increased value and have not been a part of any of these bills or the successful bills in the past. Now, currently, the homeowner gets a notice of increased value. They will continue to get a notice of increased value, but will know that no matter what the tax assessors value their property at, it cannot go up more than 3% in a year. The tax assessors have been in a situation to where if they increase it to the full value, they incur the wrath of the local citizens. If they don't increase it, they face a penalty from the state. This will let them do their job. Many homeowners will now welcome that their house is worth a lot more, knowing that their taxes will not be increased above 3%. This notice will no longer have an estimated tax on it because the assessors don't tax. They don't know what the millage rate's going to be. They don't often include the exemptions locally. They didn't include the 500 the state put in last year. The number's almost always wrong and overinflated and causes problems due to the wrong information, so that number will not be there. The taxing bodies will give them an accurate number when the tax rate is set. They also advertise a notice of the tax increase. Typically, in many areas, only 2 or 3 people show up for the 3 hearings they have, but with a cap in place, they don't have, and if they don't raise the millage rate, they no longer have to have those extra hearings. But if they raise taxes now, it'll be through the front door, not the back door, and they'll have to hold the hearings and advertise the tax increase. And it also streamlines the appeals process. The current process has some loopholes that allow quite often some out-of-state companies to game the system. They appeal, get a reduction to 85%, then they may not show up for the hearing. They then continue to not show up many areas and keep the 85% and get a 3-year freeze. Under this bill, if they show up, they keep the 85% until it's resolved. If they get any reduction at all from the assessed value, they will continue to get the 3-year freeze. Because of the streamlining of the red tape that cities, counties, and schools face, it takes away a lot of time spent on appeals and a lot of dollars spent on these and allows more time for an accurate digest. For this reason, you have on your desk from the Association of County Commissioners where their board met and unanimously voted to support this bill in its current form. This bill will require a referendum in November. We're giving the citizens a chance to vote on it. Again, this bill will get rid of a lot of bureaucracy. It will also allow many of our Georgia citizens to remain in their homes knowing they won't get a massive surprise bill that many simply can't afford. Again, in many areas, the 39 that already have something like this in place, that will take precedence if it's more beneficial to them, and it will not affect those at all. I urge your support for this bill, and Mr. President, I'll be glad to answer any questions.
You do have a question, Senator. Senator from the 35th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Chairman, isn't it true that almost 20 years ago now, Representative Skandalakis and myself introduced a very similar bill that would be for Fulton County and the metropolitan area. And it did pass, and that portion of it has been very successful over the years with people appreciating the fact that that is in the bill, in the law. Isn't that true?
That's certainly true from my suite mate down there on the first floor, and we copied what you did and noticed the success of it, and I don't think Fulton County has been hurt by this at all. The funds have been there for them, and we want to take this statewide.
Thank you very much. I will vote for that. Thank you.
You have no further questions, Senator.
Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Recognize the senator from the 13th to speak to the bill. Senator from the 13th.
Apologies, Mr. President. Thank you. Colleagues, I rise to support the bill. Thank the Finance Chairman for bringing this bill. I want to tell you how it works. Anybody who votes against this bill is voting against elderly people also. And when you think about this, in my community, we've got areas around our lake that people have lived in their houses for 25 years, inherited their houses 25 to 35 years ago, and their houses have continually gone up in value. When they don't want to sell, they just want to live in comfort and not be burdened by the constant rise in property taxes. Please get behind this bill and support it. This is for all of Georgians. It is not a Democrat or Republican bill. This is for Georgians. Support this bill. Help citizens of our state maintain at least some sense of a 3% rise, because these property taxes are out of control in some of these areas. Mr. Chairman, Mr. President, lead the will. Thank you.
Senator from the 9th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise to express some concerns about this bill. I fully understand the intent, but we in Gwinnett County, we did pass local legislation. It was HB 711 signed by the governor. It doubled our county homestead exemption from $4,000 to $8,000. We also had HB 748. It gave an additional exemption of $2,000 for public service employees. If this is passed, this would be on top of what we've already done locally. We have heard some opposition from our school boards. I understand that there is an argument that maybe the school boards are inflating their numbers and inflating their losses. But I think we should consider that legislation like this is best handled by our local bodies and our local school boards and working with our counties. They would best know what their numbers were as far as for guidance and their losses. Again, we were able to do it locally, so that's my concern. And you know, their concern is districts are going to have a challenge keeping teacher salaries in line with inflation. There's already a national teacher shortage, and currently over time, this would exacerbate that shortage as teachers would be outpaced by the industries. Districts would be forced to increase millage rates, to make up for the lost digest growth. However, there is a cap on the maximum millage rates for most districts. And in Gwinnett County, we've kept our millage rate the same over the years. But we've already, through local legislation, added a homestead exemption. So our concern here especially is related to Gwinnett County. We're adding more exemption. We're adding another referendum on the ballot, and just feel that this would be best handled locally. Thank you, Mr. President. I'll yield the well.
Senator has yielded. Senator from the 24th, would you like to speak to the bill?
Mr. Chairman, Mr. President, I'd like to excuse the senator from the 25th.
Without objection, Senator from the 25th is excused. Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the measure? Chair hears none. Is there objection to the previous question being ordered? Chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Senator is welcome to close. Senator from the 36th, for what purpose do you rise?
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to ask for unanimous consent to excuse the senator from the 34th for business outside the Capitol.
Without objection, Senator from the 34th is excused. Senator from the 52nd is close the debate.
Thank you, Mr. President. I appreciate the concerns, and I appreciate the concerns of Gwinnett County. But I do want to point out that a $4,000 exemption is worth about $48, and we've seen hundreds and thousands of dollars of increase. Gwinnett County, in 2 years, the school dollars taken in have increased 40.5% in 2 years. And as was mentioned, the millage rate has stayed the same. You would think you could drop some of that down in that case. I would also add that in Gwinnett County, only 19% of that property is homeowner property. So this doesn't even affect 81% of that property. I don't think this limits them at all, any more than it did Fulton County. I urge your support for this bill.
Thank you, Senator. Question is on the adoption of the committee substitute. Is there objection to the adoption of the committee substitute? Hearing none, the committee substitute is adopted. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? Chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? Chair hears none. The main question is ordered. Questions on the passage of the bill by substitute. All those in favor will vote yea. All opposed, nay. Secretary, unlock the machine. Majority Leader, for what purpose do you rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Isn't it true, Mr. President, a green vote for this bill is a vote for every homeowner in Georgia?
Senator knows what he speaks. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 42 and the nays are 7. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed by substitute. Secretary Reed, Senate Bill 430.
Senate Bill 430 by Senators Dolezal of the 27th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 16 of Title 51 of the OCGA relating to COVID-19 pandemic business safety so as to revise provisions for rebuttal presumptions of risk by claimants in certain COVID-19 liability claims by repealing certain warning requirements and for other purposes. The Senate Committee on Economic Development and Tourism recommends that this bill do pass. Senator Beach of the 21st. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Recognize the distinguished senator from the 27th. Speak to the measure.
Thank you, Mr. President. On my way to the well, my friend, the senator from the 6th, just asked if this is a big government bill. This is a limited government bill that I think is hopefully going to have unanimous support in this chamber. Mr. President, I'd like to thank Brad Vaughn in your office for working with me on this bill as part of your red tape rollback initiative. Back in 2020, when we passed the COVID liability protections here, those were contingent upon business owners and landowners placing signs at their storefronts. It was also contingent upon, in the case of concerts or the like, printing language on tickets or wristbands. This bill keeps the liability protection in place, but no longer requires it to be contingent on the placement of a sign or the printing of a ticket. So with this bill, hopefully once this is signed into law, we can remove the signs from the front of stores, restaurants, and the like, but allow those business owners and landowners to still have the COVID liability protection that we put in place back for them in 2020. Mr. President, with that, I'm happy to answer any questions, and if not, I yield the well.
You do have a question, Senator. Senator from the 14th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Yield.
I do.
Senator, would you agree with me that
I don't know.
now that the public is pretty much well aware of what COVID is, what its implications are, what kind of options there are for preventing and treating it, that the type of awareness that we were trying to engender with the sign is now really not necessary, at least when it comes to the application of normal tort principles and the responsibilities shared by both customers and businesses?
I would absolutely agree with that, Senator.
Thanks for bringing legislation, Senator.
Thank you.
You have no further questions, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. President. I yield.
Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the measure? The chair hears none. Is there objection to the previous question being ordered? Chair hears none, and the previous question is ordered. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which is favorable to the passage of the bill? Chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? Chair hears none. The main question is ordered. Questions on the passage of the bill. All those in favor vote yea. All opposed, nay. Secretary, unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 47, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Secretary reads Senate Bill 443.
Senate Bill 443 by Senators Watson of the 1st and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 2 of Title 41 of the OCGA relating to abatement and nuisance generally so as to provide for the inclusion of claims against promoters and organizers for costs incurred by local governments due to unpermitted events and complaints filed on behalf of the public and for other purposes. The Senate Committee on Public Safety recommends that this bill do pass. Senator John Albers of the, I don't know who this is. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Recognize the senator from the 1st. Speak to the measure.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm here presenting Senate Bill 443. Imagine St. Patrick's Day in a really less than a month now in Savannah being an unpermitted event in the city of Savannah. Imagine no porta potties, imagine no security, imagine no extra police, imagine no liability insurance. Not a pretty sight, but let me just tell you, they do it responsibly there. And on Tybee Island, it is also done responsibly for the Pirates Fest, for the Beach Bum Parade, for Martin Luther King Parade. But there is one event there that is unlicensed, unpermitted, unlicensed, but promoted heavily. As a matter of fact, the promoters will come to City Hall, say they're going to get permits, and just not follow up. Well, this has been going on for a couple of decades, and it is an unsanctioned, unpermitted event. And last year, there were over 100,000 that came to this event. Now, let's get the picture. Tybee Island is 3 miles long. It has a police force of about 14, and you can imagine over 100,000 people coming to that island. It was a little overwhelming. It was a lot overwhelming. There were certainly issues related to security from emergency services, where there were drug overdoses, where there were shootings, where there were health crises related to that, and getting on and off the island was certainly a major issue. What this bill does, basically, if you'll turn to the second page, it defines that a promoter may be held liable if it is a nuisance. Police, fire services, emergency services, etc. And the promoter being held liable allows the city of Tybee, and basically every city, not just Tybee, but every city for an unsanctioned, unpermitted event, allows them to recoup the expense. Now, Tybee Island had $187,000 worth of expenses. They know who the promoters are, and this will allow them to recoup their expenses for providing the security, the emergency services, the porta potties, and certainly, liability insurance from that standpoint. So this is what this bill does. It's a general bill that applies to all of the cities throughout the state, and basically implies responsibility when it comes to promoters. That's all it does. And Mr. President, I'll be happy to answer any questions. If not, I'll yield the well.
Senator from the second.
Thank you, Mr. President. To my good friend, the senator from the first, do you yield?
I'll be happy to yield to one of the signers of this bill and one of the senators from our area.
Senator, I just want to clarify, this bill in no way impacts the right for any group to have a peaceful protest, does it not?
No, absolutely not.
And do you further yield for my final question?
Certainly.
Senator, is it not true that unlike counties, municipal corporations, when faced with liability lawsuits for some of the things that may have happened on Tybee Island or in the city of Savannah for St. Patrick's Day without a permitted event, they have no cap on the damages that may be awarded against them? Is that not true?
As a matter of fact, that is true, and the city of Savannah has been the victim of that on more than one occasion. Thank you for your question.
You have no further questions.
Thank you. I yield the well and ask for your favorable consideration.
Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the measure? Chair hears none. Is there objection to the previous question being ordered? Chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? Chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? Chair hears none. The main question is ordered. Questions on the passage of the bill. All those in favor vote yea. All opposed nay. Secretary, unlock the machine. On the passes of the bill, the yeas are 47, the nays are 1. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Secretary Reed, SR 470.
Senate Resolution 470 by Senators Hickman of the 4th and others, a resolution creating the Senate Study Committee on the Preservation of Georgia's Farmlands and for other purposes. The Senate Committee on Agriculture and Consumer Affairs recommends that this resolution do pass. Submitted Senator Goodman of the 8th. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Recognize the senator from Statesboro, Georgia. Senator from the 4th.
Mr. President, I really like the sound of that, and I appreciate that. Thank you, Mr. President. This is a resolution I'm very passionate about because I own a small farm. I'm a CPA, as y'all know, and I represent a good many farmers. And then I also like to eat, as many of you in this chamber do. We have, over the last 35, 40 years, in Georgia, we've lost 2.6 million acres of farmland and timberland to development. So it's very, very serious. As y'all know, in our area of Georgia, the Hyundai plant's coming. We're very thankful for the Hyundai plant. We're very thankful for the jobs it's going to create, and it's going to help eliminate a lot of poverty in our area. But along with the Hyundai plant, it's probably, counting that plant, another 20 to 25,000 support jobs. So we got to think about these people and think about industry, and we think about our farmland, because if we ever get dependent on the world for food, we're in a mess, and we all know that. So just think about this number-wise. And in my area, in our area, farmland is renting for $100 an acre, unirrigated land, and it's selling for $25,000 an acre for houses. We, in our lower part of our county, closer to Bryan County and the port area, we actually have some timberland just sold, a client of mine, sold for $53,000 an acre. So those numbers are very, not only life-changing, these numbers are generational changing. But as this land goes out of farming, goes into this, it never comes back. We also got to be thinking about the solar farm situation. We're seeing more and more of those, and some of that solar farm goes on land that is unproductive. But again, in our area, that farmland that rents for $100 an acre, solar farms are renting them for $1,000 an acre. So it's not very hard to figure out the numbers on this stuff works, and so it's hard for families to kind of turn down those numbers. So in how we came about this bill, in Bullock County, we had a group of farmers come to us and met with T.J. Hudson, the governor's regional field representative, and T.J. put together a meeting with myself and Brad Vaughn and T.J. with about 50 farmers at the Ag Center in Statesboro. We had about 6 or 7 of them speak, very eloquent, did a great job speaking, and that's how we came about this. And actually, I'd like to brag on Brad Vaughn, because he actually went back to Bullock County and spent about 3/4 of a day meeting with farmers even after our meeting. So the big thing about this, we can address this through detailed decision making. We have the right to protect our land, support our economy, and grow our communities and maintain a high quality of life. To achieve this, we must make intentional and informed decisions. Very proud that, that this chamber and the legislature passed the Farm Bill in 2022, and then our own senator from the Senator Goodman. I know that was wrong. I know it was wrong, but I couldn't. Jason. The senator from the 6th is so tall I couldn't see your number there. I know I was wrong. But this bill creates a study committee for this summer to look at the preservation of Georgia's farmland. It will be 7 members, of which 4 of those members will be farmers, are farmers. The primary focus of this resolution is farmland preservation, timberland preservation, industry expansion, and water protection. And I know that's a load, but there's a balancing in there. And in my county, the poverty rate in my county is 24%. In my city, it's 41%. So I'm very pro-industry from that standpoint to change the lives in our communities. And so it's going to be a big deal for industry, but also it's a big deal for us to eat, continue eating. So, Mr. President, I would yield the will. I will open up for any questions. Oh,
You do have a couple questions, Senator. Recognize the senator from the 49th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator, do you yield?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Isn't it true that without farmers, we would all be naked and hungry?
Senator knows what she speaks.
Recognize the senator from the 8th.
Does the senator yield?
Yes, sir, I do.
Senator, isn't it true that since 1974 we've lost 20% of our farmland in the state of Georgia?
The senator knows what he speaks, and I agree.
Senator, further yield?
Yes, sir.
Senator, isn't it also true that in the United States of America we average losing 2,000 acres of farmland a day?
I agree. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Does the senator further yield?
Yes, sir.
Isn't it true we've got to have land to be able to feed our country?
Senator knows what he speaks. I agree.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
One more question, Senator. Senator from the 28th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator, do you yield?
Yes, sir.
Senator, isn't it true? I have no idea what you just said, but if you'll yield that well, I'll vote for your bill.
Senator, thank you for your comment. And Mr. President, I do yield the will.
The senator has yielded. You can tell he's an accountant, detail-oriented. Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the bill? Senator from the 33rd, for what purpose do you rise?
Excuse me, Mr. President, I'd like to ask for unanimous consent to excuse the senator from the 40th for business inside the Capitol.
Without objection, the senator from the 40th is excused. Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the measure? Chair hears none. Is there objection to the previous question being ordered? Chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of committee which is favorable to the adoption of the resolution? Chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? Chair hears none, and the main question is ordered. The question is on the adoption of the resolution. All those in favor will vote yea. All opposed, nay. Secretary will unlock the machine. On the adoption of the resolution, the yeas are 47 and the nays are 1. This resolution, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore adopted. Recognize the majority leader for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's been a wonderful bipartisan day here in the Senate.
Tell you what, love is in the air.
Day 21. I've moved that the Senate stand adjourned until 9 a.m. on Friday, February 16th. That's 0900.
Secretary, read the caption or announcements.
The Rules Committee will meet upon adjournment in room 450 of the Capitol. The Urban Affairs Committee will meet upon adjournment in room 125 of the Capitol. Banking and Financial Institutions Committee will meet at 1 p.m. in room 450 of the Capitol. Children and Families Committee will meet at 1 p.m. in room 307 of CLOB. Regulated Industries and Utilities will meet at 2 p.m. in room 450 of the Capitol. Science and Technology Committee will meet at 2 p.m. in room 310 of the CLOB. Public Safety Committee will meet at 3 p.m. in room 450 of the Capitol. Judiciary Committee will meet at 4 p.m. in room 307 of CLOB. The Regulated Industries, Infrastructure, and Community Development Subcommittee will meet at 4 p.m. of MES 1 of the Capitol, and the Ethics Committee will meet at 5 p.m. in room 310 of the CLOB. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Recognize the senator from the 36th for an announcement.
colleagues, just briefly, reminder that on your desk is an invitation to the next meeting today, the lunch meeting of Georgia Working Families Legislative Caucus, and it'll be in the mezzanine, which is a room change, and we appreciate our sponsors. I hope that we'll see you there to hear an update on key working families bills. Upon adjournment, thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Does any other senator wish to rise for an announcement or any other news? All right, the majority leader has moved that we stand adjourned until 9 a.m., February 16th. All those in favor of the motion will signify by saying aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes clearly have it. We're adjourned. Have a good evening.